My name is Trevor Gordon. I'm with Epilepsy South Central Ontario. How are you? Today we are going to be having an opportunity, or I'm going to have the opportunity to chat with someone named Holly Garrett. Holly Garrett does a lot of fundraising and support for Epilepsy South Central Ontario. So we were going to chat to Holly about that. While we wait for Holly to join us, I do want to read a little bit from her bio. Holly is a realtor of 13 years who is a resident of South Mississauga and works proudly under the Remax worldwide brand in the GTA. She has won numerous sales awards, including the Remax Hall of Fame Award, and is a proud supporter of Epilepsy South Central Ontario and the Children's Miracle Network. So let's welcome Holly.
Hello.
Hi Holly, how are you?
Good. Sorry about that. I was having some technical difficulties.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Welcome in. And before we start, what beautiful artwork you have behind
Oh,
you. Wow.
thank you. Actually, that was painted. Both of those were painted by a client of mine who's a very talented artist. Her name is Colleen Ewing.
Well, Colleen, wow, what a beautiful background and a beautiful, beautiful vibe you have over there. What very, very
Thank
welcoming. It's a beautiful
you.
background.
I remember during COVID times, my daughter's teacher made a comment about the background that I chose for Avery to learn, and I was so flattered that she actually thought it was a fake background.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I know you're a very, very busy individual, so I appreciate the time you're giving us this morning.
No, I appreciate you having me on.
So I was reading your bio, like a realtor of 13 years, and you're a resident of South Mississauga, as I mentioned, and you won the Remax Hall of Fame Award. Tell us a little bit about, before I dive into the other questions, tell us about, your relationship with Remax and being known in the community.
I actually joined Remax. I met my broker one day at the dump. That's how I joined Remax. It's kind of a funny story. So Jody Gilmore, who it was my broker up until recently, um, I went to the dump because I was renovating a house and I was getting rid of a load of things, and I saw this woman throwing out some real estate signs. Excuse me. And I commented to her, I said, "Oh, you're not supposed to throw those out. They're actually quite expensive to have printed and we reuse them." And she said, "Oh, no, no, I'm actually rebranding," and introduced herself. And that's kind of how I became a part of Remax. We became friends instantly over our little rendezvous at the dump.
I think
um,
Jody just heard you talk about her because I see she just joined the broadcast, so she's
oh, did she?
watching. Hi,
I
Jody.
see. Yes, and I see her husband Jeff is here. Hi, Jeff.
You have a lot of supporters watching. So again, I appreciate you joining us. So, I mean, you know that we're obviously an epilepsy organization, and you've been a huge supporter of Epilepsy South Central Ontario. But before I get into some of the questions, the one thing I wanted to ask you right at the start is, how has epilepsy impacted your life? Like, what do you have a connection to epilepsy?
I do have a connection to epilepsy. My daughter Avery was diagnosed when she was 5 years old. Um, Scary times for sure, and for any parent who is going through that, because usually you don't actually know that your child has epilepsy until they have a seizure. And so when she was 5 years old, she had her first seizure, followed by several others afterwards. And it's something that is kind of your worst nightmare. And then you realize that if you have some support from communities and organizations like yours, it's less scary. And one thing about Epilepsy South Central Ontario that I really appreciate is the fact that Avery really does feel like she's a part of a community. She attends Sunny Days Camp. She really is looking forward to being a counselor there one day. She actually made me Google it the other day to see if she could next year, but we're not there yet. So, but Avery, when she was first diagnosed, we weren't sure if it was just epilepsy, if she was just having febrile seizures, but it turns out often when their immune system is down is when they'll have a seizure. And so hers tend to be in the winter because that's when she gets sick. So these are kind of scary times. COVID was a scary time. Anytime that she is sick, we are recommended by her doctor to just keep her dosed on Tylenol, because if she spikes a fever at all, then that's when her seizures happen. So that's kind of my little story of what happened with our girl, but we're getting through it and we keep on top of things.
So, and I appreciate you sharing that. You had the connection to epilepsy because of your daughter, but and this is not to say anything negative about our clients, but not all clients that are with our organizations necessarily have the time to do fundraising, or they don't have the means. Why did you take it upon yourself to sort of step up as a parent to do fundraising efforts? And I think even Avery, from what I understand, she does her own
She
fundraising.
does.
Like, why do you think, what made you want to donate specifically to Epilepsy South Central Ontario? Other than, obviously, I know your daughter's involved and has the connection. Because what makes you sort of jump on to really rally for this?
Well, kind of finding out from some people through the organization that Epilepsy South Central Ontario gets very little sustainable funding. From what I know anyway, I'm sure you can clarify, but I think you'll get small grants here and there, but there's really nothing that is enough to do. Like, I mean, you guys work with what you have so well and you do so much for all of the kids, but you could do so much more. And to your point, because in a recent discussion with you, pointing out the fact that actually if there was a bit more funding, it would cut down on costs for taxpayers with ambulance and ER visits and things like that. Because if people actually knew a bit more about epilepsy, about epilepsy in general, we could cut down on the time spent in the hospital because they don't need to be hospitalized all the time.
Right.
So I know you know more than I do about that. But for me, I like to support things that matter to me, and seeing what you have done, it matters. It matters to Avery. Avery does her little lemonade stand in the summertime, and anything that she can do to raise funds, she does. So
Well, you touched on it. So epilepsy is the third, sometimes second neurological disease out there, and unfortunately, as you said, it doesn't get sustainable government funding. Yes, the odd grant here and there, and to help with our Sunny Days camp. Sometimes we do hopefully get the Canada Summer Jobs grant to be able to have staff for the Sunny Days camp, but unfortunately, we do not have sustainable government funding, and we have to rely on fundraising efforts and our events that we do. Now, with you, I mean, not only you have your daughter that does the odd fundraising efforts. I mean, you were kind enough to reach out to us, and you have a Canada Helps page that I'll post a link below this that you are doing to help expand on the Sunny Days camp. Talk to us about that. Like, what was your reasoning for wanting to do a fundraising page? Because you're doing multiple things. You're juggling here, multiple
yeah,
things.
I've always donated to charities, and I try to choose something that matters to me. So I actually, when I reached out to you about supporting Epilepsy South Central Ontario, it was mainly to do a per transaction donation. And you were kind enough to give me, actually I have them right here, to provide these riders for our signs, to just bring a little bit of awareness as well. And I think when it comes to this kind of fundraising, there's strength in numbers. If there were more agents who hopped on board, even if it was a small per transaction donation, it all adds up. And it's not like one donation one time is going to make all the difference. But if you have 50 and then 100 and then 200 and then 500 agents who are donating a small amount every time that they close a deal, it would really add up and be able to help. And that essentially is, we want to do anything that we can to help. I've spoken to a few other agents who are on board. Actually, the most recent one who confirmed yesterday was Stefan Contos is going to be doing a per per transaction donation as well. But also it gets the sign out there. A lot of people who don't know what Epilepsy South Central Ontario is, if it's on our sign and our signs are everywhere, then maybe it's going to spark a bit of curiosity. So
You touched on a person named Stefan. He actually was kind enough to reach out to our organization, not only to fundraise, which of course we're always appreciative of fundraising efforts, but he also wanted to learn Epilepsy 101. And I mean, we always appreciate when someone's willing to take it a step further and learn first aid training and, not just what you see in TV shows and movies. He was willing to reach out to learn everything you need to know about epilepsy. So not only is he kind enough to do fundraising efforts, but he's obviously wanting to learn Epilepsy 101 so that he would know what to do if someone was to have a seizure in front of
yeah,
him.
yes. And I think it's important, like the fact that there isn't enough of this in schools. Like when Avery had her second seizure, it happened at school and it was very scary and a little traumatizing, I think, for the kids who were around watching, and scary for the teachers. Like the teachers after had said to me, I don't know how you held it together, because what a lot of people don't know, which I'm sure they would learn in Epilepsy 101, is that it just takes so much out of them that sometimes they're asleep for a while after, and it's scary because they stop breathing at one point. But if you know enough about it, you know that there's a system in place to trigger oxygen after a certain amount of time. Like you really don't need to call an ambulance every time someone has a seizure if someone is around who knows how to handle it. So,
Right.
but I think the Epilepsy 101, I would be a huge proponent of trying to get that into schools, just so that people are aware of it, not just for school, but for anywhere. Because if anyone has a seizure at any point, if there's someone around who knows what they're doing, then that would be really helpful.
Yes. What is one myth about epilepsy that frustrates you as a parent?
Um, I think the whole choking on your tongue thing is a little silly. Like, I mean, that's physically impossible.
I always say that. I literally will say, guys, try it right now. Try to swallow your tongue right now. You might be able to bite it, and that's not great, but you can. It's impossible to swallow your tongue,
Yeah,
So this myth needs to go away.
yeah. But even I've been around for her seizures and I've handled it. Like everyone handles it a little bit differently. But if you actually know what to do in that moment, then it's not so panicked. And if you understand that, yes, they appear to not be breathing, but you kind of know that something's going to happen to trigger that for them. But also, like Avery is completely passed out after she has a seizure, and it's scary and whatever. But she wakes up, and she's had a seizure in front of one of her friends, who I was so impressed with. Like they were in her bedroom, and she came out and just said something's wrong with Avery, and she was calm and she stood there while we just waited for her to wake up at that point, because her seizure was almost finished. But this was a child who was also in her kindergarten class when she had her first seizure, so she's aware of it. But it's scary. Like Avery, we're within walking distance of Avery's school that she attends, but her father and I, we're afraid that something will happen to her. But if more people knew what to do in that case, in that scenario, then it would give us a bit more comfort. So
Right.
maybe we need to have you come and do Epilepsy 101 for all of Avery's friends too.
For sure. Now, you mentioned Avery's in Sunny Days Camp, which I do know, full disclosure, that she's in it because I've seen her and she's drawn me cute little pictures, one that I actually have in my office. Um, Tell me, as a parent, why you think it's important to have a Sunny Days Camp? Like, what feedback have you heard from Avery? And as a parent, what have you picked up on Sunny Days Camp? Like, what is your thoughts of the camp?
I love the camp for her. The fact that they do so much and charge so little for our children to attend. Like it's such a fair amount that you request for the kids to be taken care of, and I think that that's sustainable through some of the donations that you receive from other generous donors. But she loves the camp and she likes being around other people who kind of understand. Like her friends definitely understand that she has epilepsy, but they don't have to take a pill every day. They don't have to take pills in the morning and at night that are anticonvulsants. Like, and that's a scary thing too for somebody who's a huge scatterbrain like I am. Like, the one thing I don't forget, I forget to take my medication all the time. I don't forget to give Avery her medication. And it's like, that's scary. You go up for a cottage weekend and on the drive up, I'm like, oh my God, did I bring her medication? Like, it's absolutely important. It's something that she has to have all the time. So, um, yeah, it's crazy because you don't, you have a child and you just expect that everything's going to be perfect, and then these things happen. And I guess the only way to really truly deal with it is to understand that it can always be worse.
Yeah.
So
I know we touched on this earlier too, is that Epilepsy South Central Ontario, well, it's in the name, we cover all of South Central Ontario. And we have one, sometimes two camps, one in Mississauga and sometimes in Kitchener. So you being kind enough to create a fundraising page to try to expand on this Sunny Days camp to maybe be in multiple locations across South Central Ontario. We can't thank you enough for that. The one thing I want to ask you is, we know that you're a rock star with fundraising, and what would you say to other of your colleagues, whether it be Remax or even your competitors, or just the average person on the street? What would you say to them to inspire them to do
well,
fundraising?
I think if they actually looked into how much funding other organizations get versus what Epilepsy South Central Ontario receives, and how much of it actually goes straight to the organization and not into a marketing budget that's huge and big salaries and whatever, because charities are a huge business, they really are. But it's so personal. Every time you speak with you or with David or with Carly or the other people in the office at Epilepsy South Central Ontario, like, you truly believe in what you're doing and in this cause. And like with Sunny Days Camp, you employ a lot of the counselors, if not all of the counselors, I think, have epilepsy. And it's so nice to have someone around who understands the kids and understands what they're going through. And of course, there are different levels of whether there's a disability with the children or not. Everybody's accepted. You accept their siblings. You like, it's so inclusive, and I just really, really appreciate that. So it would be nice if everybody just even looked into your organization a bit. Like, go on your Instagram, look at everything that you do, and maybe consider making a small donation per or a large donation per transaction would be nice as well. But if we can get everybody, like, there's strength in numbers. So if we could get more people doing the same thing, and maybe we can organize having you come into the office and do a lunch and learn or something like that, and maybe do Epilepsy 101 and a lunch and learn at the same time with how we can support. I think that would be helpful.
Now, I'm going to give you the floor here. I want you to sort of, first of all, to tell people, of course, why they should consider, buying a house or a condo or a listing from you. I know the answer to this question, by the way, but I mean, ultimately, I want you to sell everyone. I mean, the fact is, not everyone donates to a epilepsy organization and the Children's Miracle Network like you do. So I would think, if I was a person that's considering, there's a million agents out there, I would automatically go to Holly's. But I'm going to give you the floor. What would you say to the public why they should, go with you for a listing?
Well, I'm not somebody who is great at pumping my own tires. And actually, literally, I went to the gas station this morning and didn't put air in my tire. Um, I kind of leave that up to my clients, and I can say that my business is probably 90% or more referral based. So I don't find that I have to send out marketing with my face on it for everybody because I'm busy enough with work. My clients know that I care about them. I've never had a client who could for a second say that I don't truly, truly care about what's best for them. I've often talked clients out of purchasing properties rather than buying them because I didn't think it was the right move for them. But I think the truth is what comes from people who have experienced working with me, and I'm pretty confident that if you reached out to any of them, that's where you would get the truth of what the experience is selling with me. Um, but yeah, let's talk more about epilepsy.
I just wanted to put you on the spot a little bit and brag a little bit, but I know you're humble. But I guess tell us about your fundraising efforts. Like, I mean, you talk to us again about what Avery does, but talk about your Canada House page, and just sort of tell us the ways that you support Epilepsy South Central Ontario, because that is the common question we're getting is they want to be able to support you. How can they support you and Epilepsy South Central
I
Ontario?
would encourage anyone to go to the Canada Helps page to make a donation, which I learned the hard way not to go to the Facebook page for that because it doesn't actually go directly to your organization. Um, which I still have no idea where that money went. But I think you know how to post a link to the Canada Helps page after this live, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I would encourage anybody who I know and who's watching to whatever you can spare to make a donation. Like for me, things are just things, but if you can actually help in some way, like there are a lot of kids who have epilepsy who can't afford to go to other camps, period. But to be in a camp where they're safe and where they're taken care of and the counselors know what to do. And it's also a little humbling, I think, too, for the counselors because I mean, Avery has seen a counselor have a seizure at Sunny Days Camp, and but they educate them when something like that's happening. They educate them. And the other thing too is Avery always asks me like what happens when she has a seizure because she's never seen it, obviously, but now she has, so she understands it a little bit more. So I think just having the inclusivity and again like inviting the siblings to be a part of it is so important as well. Um, I didn't know about Epilepsy South Central Ontario until a couple of years ago, and I don't even know where I came across the page. I think it was one of your posts with the Sunny Days Camp, and I thought, oh, this is great. Like, and it happens to be right here in Port Credit, which is also awesome. Um, the instructors are the counselors, they're amazing. The events that you do, like Avery loves the Build-A-Bear workshop. And I know it's funny when we're choosing which weeks she's going to do, you never know ahead of time which one's the Build-A-Bear. So we're always kind of like fingers crossed that she falls onto that week.
Yeah.
But there's fun
No, I appreciate
events
it.
for them, fun events for
And,
them all the time, which is really great.
and I appreciate that you touched on the one thing about that not everyone who has epilepsy or who has seizures actually knows what a seizure looks like. I mean, of course, you could go on YouTube or something to watch a clip of that, but they don't necessarily see it in person. But at that camp, they would see other children in their age bracket having a seizure potentially in front of
Yeah.
them. And I've learned, and I've talked to the children, it makes them feel a little more comfortable and they don't feel alone and they're not as scared about the potential of having a seizure when they see other people, individuals in their age bracket having a seizure and how everyone reacts when they are having a seizure, that it's just business as usual, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's kind of funny. Like I've picked her up before and how was camp today? Oh, it was good. Whoever she'll name one of the little boys or whatever had a seizure. And I'm like, oh, how was it? Well, how was it handled? And she's like, oh, it was fine. Everybody knew what to do. Like it's kind of normal for her now. And it's good for that to be normal because this is her life. And, like that's just everyday business, which is, it's good for her.
I,
And
I,
I really don't think outside of Epilepsy South Central Ontario she's ever really met anybody who had epilepsy.
Hmm.
So
You know, I say this a lot in interviews and discussions, and I'm biased when I say this, but I feel like people with epilepsy are the strongest people I know because I've seen many seizures in my day to day, and they'll have a seizure and then they'll come to and everything. And they're more concerned about the people around them if they're okay. Like I've did the right things, pushed things out of the way for the person that's having a seizure, putting a pillow underneath their head, and all the right things that you're supposed to do, and maybe I kind of hit my knee when I was trying to help the person out, and the person was just like, "Hey, are you okay?" And I'm like, "What? You're asking if I'm okay? You're the one that had the seizure." And but that's just part of their normal life. So
yeah.
so when people around sometimes get nervous or scared, I'm like, they got this. Help them with putting a pillow and things, but I think when people get scared, you don't need to. Like, they're the strongest individuals I know.
I'm seeing a comment here from Neurotalk Network. They may not be scared, but they don't know the mental toll it takes. And I assume you're speaking of the person who's having the seizure. Um, that is something that is shocking to me, how exhausted Avery, after a seizure, she'll sleep for the rest of the day. Like she will literally just be on the couch sleeping and she's just so tired. Um, she has grand mal seizures, and she also has seizure activity. As most people who have epilepsy, there's background static all the time. Like we've dealt with a few issues with Avery, with school, with having some processing delays, just because she says a lot, or huh. You ask her a question, the answer is always huh, and then of course we say pardon, and then she says pardon, but she's just buying herself time to come up with an answer, um, because she's organizing the thoughts, because there's a little bit of jumbled confusion there. It really shocked me actually when she did an interview at the office, and she was great in that interview. I was so proud of her.
Yeah, we need to post clips from that interview. We have it, and we should like post clips from that again because yeah, she was great. She was really great.
Yeah. And she loves being a part of it. She loves getting it out there. Like she's so funny. In the summertime, she and her friends actually did like a lemonade stand where like they actually made quite a bit of money, but they donated all of the proceeds to Epilepsy South Central Ontario, which, I mean, it's cute that they do that and everything. And but hey, again, have every kid donate to a charity that needs the funding, you know?
Right.
And but it's a good lesson for them as well, for the kids.
Well, Holly, I appreciate you. You're a busy person, so I don't want to keep you much longer. But again, I really appreciate the time you've given us today to talk about your fundraising efforts. And of course, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing for fundraising efforts. But again, I'm going to give you the last word. Talk to the world, talk to the internet right now. What would you say for those to support you and what you're doing for Epilepsy South Central Ontario?
Well, I can tell you how much this cause means to me, because anybody who knows me knows that I hate doing video anything. I'm one of those realtors that you're not going to see a whole lot of me walking through my properties on our reels. I'm doing this because I care about this cause. And you'll see more coming forward. Like I am donating from every transaction, and quarterly there will be a payout to Epilepsy South Central Ontario. So the busier I am, the more I can give. And I really encourage other realtors to look into the organization. Also, to get out there, Epilepsy 101. Like if there are teachers listening, if there are businesses that have a lot of employees, it's good. And it also, you're doing something by teaching them, but at the same time, it's also getting your name and your organization out there. So any way that I can, I will. And I'll be at the Purple Gala next year, which I just learned about this year also. Um, and and I'll even wear purple, and everybody who knows me knows I hate the color purple.
So,
I
so
think I
you heard
said,
it. You heard it from Holly about the Purple Gala, so if anything, they should buy tickets so they can join you at the Holly/Remax table.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you to see how we can further support because any event that you're going to be at, then I'd be happy to donate something, whether it's money or refreshments or things like that, just to help out in any way that I can. I really appreciate the community that you've provided and the support for kids who are going through this, kids and adults, everybody.
And Holly, you're not going to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. Our signs here in Port Credit, our Epilepsy South Central office signs, they got vandalized. They got horribly
I saw
damaged. And
that.
Holly was the first person to reach out to us and say, what will it cost to replace those signs? And we ended up finding someone to replace the signs. And she's like, well, whatever it costed you, I'm going to donate it to my charity, the South Central Canada Helps page. And you were awesome. You came, like, right away when the signs got damaged, you were like the first person to reach out to say, we got to get those signs taken care of. So thank you, Holly. I knew you weren't going to bring it up, but I wanted to bring it up that, and as we're talking, a lot of people are thanking you for what you're doing. Great job. Thank you for all you're doing with fundraising. Like, you're getting a lot of feedback from some of your work colleagues and your supporters. So thank you,
Yeah.
Holly, for everything that you do.
No, well, thank you. And thank you for taking the time today. And hopefully we can get that link posted so that anybody who wants to make a donation, I mean, I just missed my birthday too. I could have posted that for I could have posted instead of all the wine that I got. I would have rathered have a small donation from everyone for Epilepsy South Central Ontario.
And where can they reach you when they want to buy or sell their home?
I think everybody kind of knows how to find me on social media, very little, but my number is posted. Where I work out of Remax Enterprises in South Mississauga here. My office is the Port Credit office, but very proud to be a part of an organization that also encourages the people within the brokerage to donate to different charities because we support a few different ones. It's like this is new. I think this is a newer one, the Epilepsy South Central Ontario, to collaborate with you on that. But we've been supporting the Children's Miracle Network for years. And breast cancer research. For me, I still support Children's Miracle Network. But I wanted to do something that was a little closer, that hits a little closer to home. So Epilepsy South Central Ontario will be one. I still contribute to Children's Miracle Network, and fairly soon I think we'll be adding some more charities.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for doing this interview with me today, Holly. And thank you for those that are watching. And I will be sure to tag your Canada Helps fundraising page and your contact information. But thank you so much for everything that you're doing for Epilepsy South Central Ontario. But more importantly, creating epilepsy awareness as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll look out for your live videos of the Port Credit sunsets.
Yes. I've become a Port Credit TikTok superstar because of the sunrise, not because of me, but because of the sunrise.
Well, you won't see me up that early, but maybe I'll watch it later.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.